Central Bank of Nigeria directive, which absorbs retail forex sales for retail users and reduced the tenor of foreign exchange denominated transaction, has expectedly begun to have a positive effect on the naira and generating interest among operators. Now, the policy abolished the foreign exchange preferential treatment it accorded the manufacturing sector. Last week, the CBN released $370.8 million to 23 deposit money banks to see difficulties encountered by Nigerians in obtaining funds for foreign transactions. It also reduced the tenor of its forward sales from the maximum cycle of 180 days to 60 days from the date of transaction. All right, let's discuss this and let's see the latest on this move by the CBN. And joining me to do that in the studio is an economist, Kayode Oyedeji. Many thanks for your time, Kayode. Also joining me via Skype is a researcher with AfriInvest, Omotola Abimbola. Many thanks for your time, Omotola.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let me start with you, Omotola. Following the directive by the CBN on the exchange dollar, how do you see this policy reversal?
Well, I think it has been long in coming. The central bank had earlier maintained that it will be maintaining its FX peg at 300 and 500.
Go ahead.
And
are you there? All right. We seem to have lost connection with him. We'll get him back as soon as he gets there. All right. But I was asking him, how do you see this policy reversal? We already see it having a serious effect on the naira. But do you see the CBN sustaining this hold?
Well, I think whichever way you look at it, it's a positive development. When you consider where we're coming from and where we are now, where we are actually aiming to get to, the basic thing is there is nothing so strange about what we have now. To me, CBN is reverting to what it used to be. CBN is trying to do some adjustments, basically to divert demand from the black market to the official channels, which is what has always been. And in the process, CBN is also trying to ensure that liquidity is provided so that people can stay within official channels to do most of their foreign transactions instead of going to create more pressure, put more pressure on the black market. That's basically what the CBN
in your words, it's no doubt going to birth a short-term gain.
Yes, that's why I call it an adjustment. Most of the things CBN will do at this point, they are to achieve short-term gains. The long-term gains that we need, we have to tinker with the fundamentals of the economy. We have to do a lot to make sure that the economy begins to produce. We have to make sure that we consume, and most of the things we consume are locally made goods. We have to ensure that services are provided locally. We need to make sure that we patronize local hospitals, local schools. We do less of foreign things, and we need to, most importantly, identify where we have comparative advantage in trade and strengthen those positions.
All right, I'm told Omotola is back on Skype. Yeah, Omotola, we're talking about this policy reversal. Just as the CBN made that announcement, at the close of trading on Friday, it closed at 450 from 525 naira to the dollar and amassing a gain of 75 naira to the dollar.
Right, that's correct. The reason why we saw that massive correction in the markets was because we had demand for FX in the parallel market dropping, because the CBN is now taking care of, about 20% of the demand that was going there before. So that sort of reduced the pressure on parallel market rates. I also saw some speculators trying to cut their losses by offloading the dollar supply that they have, into the market. So a combination of increased supply for FX in that segment, as well as a drop in demand. So that led to that appreciation of rates in the parallel markets, and that's also surprising.
Yeah, Abimbola, how can the CBN maintain this trend?
For them to maintain this trend, two things are important. They have to continue with intervention, both at the interbank markets and for the retail users as well. So that will mean that for the three products, or rather services that they want to be intervening for, that's for the PTA, medical tourism,
The
as well as
BTA.
BTA as well as school fees. They have to ensure that they are fulfilling all the orders so that this demand do not go back to the parallel markets. And they have to continue to also find the dollars to intervene in the interbank markets frequently. Last week, they intervened with about $600 million in the interbank markets, and they have to follow this up with continuous auction so they can reduce the pent-up demand for FX in the interbank markets. As of last week, the total value of pent-up demand that was estimated was about $4.5 billion.
Okay, we seem to be having issues with Abimbola's network, but I'm sure we'll reconnect with him. All right, let's look at the initial policy, the initial directive of the preferential treatment given to the manufacturing sector, knowing that even the manufacturing sector contributes less than 10% to the GDP. Now, did you think that the CBN defied all logic going out with that initial plan?
Well, bulk of the policies we've had from CBN to some of us who are observers, peer observers, they are more of panic measures. And I think they've realized that the more you give the Naira freedom to identify it or to come to its fair value, the better. When you give, there is no way, it's not a new thing to give manufacturers preferential treatment in the allocation of foreign exchange. What we have said all along is by the time you shut out the remaining 90% users from the official market, they are not likely to fold up immediately. They have to look elsewhere to get their dollars. And that, of course, created so much pressure in the black market. And unfortunately for the CBN, the black market seems to have easier means of getting the transactions done than the official market, where you have a lot of documentations to do. In the black market, the seller meets the seller and instantly a trade is consummated. So people simply walked from the official market into the black market. And in the process, the black market started to find a new low based on the pressure of the market, the interplay of demand and supply. So by and large, the economy started valuing the Naira based on what the black market does, which ordinarily shouldn't be. I know the black market, for instance, is not lawful, but it's recognized, it's tolerated.
So that takes us to the fact that there is the risk of the devaluation of the Naira, which is rising. If the CBN needs to actually cap the gap between the black market and
the thank you very much. One of the things CBN will achieve with the new policy is they will bridge the gap between the two markets. And I've always said there should be a convergence between the two markets. And to me, or from what we've had in the past, whatever is happening in the black market and the official market, there shouldn't be more than 10% difference between the two of them, so that people can stop speculating and doing round tripping. At what point does round tripping start in the market? At a point where the buyer knows it's a win-win situation for him. If I buy at 500 today, whether legitimately or illegitimately, I will make again on the currency. That's at that point, round tripping commences. So CBN must make sure that the gap is closed, even if it means you have to devalue temporarily. If you devalue and you put in all the mechanism that will make realign the fundamentals of the economy, gradually Naira will find its real value. And
there's a risk of devaluing, but we also know that the poor would definitely suffer from this devaluation. We'll be talking about that after the break. And of course, the unresolved burden of the 5 rates of the Naira to the dollar. That's another issue that needs to actually be addressed. But that will be after the break. Just stay with us. All right, you're watching Business Nigeria, and I've been speaking with Kayode Oyedeji, an economist, and of course, via Skype, a researcher with AfriInvest, Omotola Abimbola, who is going to join us as soon as we connect with him. All right, before we went on that break, we're talking about the risk of devaluing, which is getting on the rise. And if the CBN eventually devalues, how do we handle the issue of inflation? And of course, we know that the poor masses will be the one to actually suffer for this devaluation. Okay,
like I said earlier, the Naira has already devalued itself. And most transactions on the foreign exchange, except what manufacturers claim to do with the 10%, with the Forex allotted to them by the CBN, virtually everything you have in the market in the open market on the high street is already reflecting the black market rates. The rice you buy in the open market on the high street is already reflecting the fact that the supplier, the importer, used black market rate to facilitate his trade. The same thing goes for virtually everything. What in this case is still largely tied to the official rate is the importation of petroleum products. And if you devalue the naira, then two things will happen. You have to spend more money to bring in petroleum products. Now till we have local capacity to produce, probably when Dangote refinery comes on board, you have to keep subsidizing petroleum products. And how will that be done? When you look at devaluation, when you devalue, the amount of money you get into the federation to account to will increase likely by the percentage of the same proportion which you have devalued the currency. So there is a likelihood that you have more money to share in the federation account. Arrangement can be put in place to make sure that the excess money you have in the federation account is used to sustain subsidy as much as possible. That's one side. There's a likelihood that that process will be abused. But here we have a government that is committed to transparency like never before. And we have new policy, we have whistleblowing, and government should strengthen those mechanisms to see that subsidy is not abused as we had in the past. So if you have excess in the federation account, you can use that one to sustain subsidy so that it will lead to higher level of inflation within the economy.
But that takes me also to one major challenge that we have, or that the CBN has, or that the government has, and that's talking about the 5 rates of the naira. We have that of the revenue rate for the sharing. We have that for fuel importers, for oil marketers. We have the DAS, and we have the black market.
Yep.
And of course, so how can the government actually ensure that there is a single market rate?
Yes, you actually missed out on one called underground market at a point. It's unfortunate that Nigeria got to that point. And if you really want to take good lessons for what has happened in the past, I'll say we have not really managed the foreign exchange system as much as we should do, especially in a crisis situation where you have paucity of foreign exchange and all the likes. But the reality is we've reached a point where government must decide on what it wants to do with those markets. Number one, fuse every rate that government is in control into one. Number two, create a convergence between that rate and the black market. Then determine a system by which over time you set milestones to make sure that you not only create a convergence or a situation where they trade almost at par, you also find a way to make sure you kill the black markets. It's a long-term plan. Nigeria has to kill the black market or make it illegal, technically, by draining it of demand, which CBN has started, and gradually you make sure that it's not even tolerated.
Okay, Kaide, let's talk to Abimbola. I'm told he's on Skype now. All right, Abimbola, I know you were talking about the policy reversals and all that before we went on that break, but this new policy couldn't be coming at a better time as the country's foreign reserves has been seen on the increase lately. And of course, we'll see the Eurobond, the oversubscribed $1 billion Eurobond. And that takes me to the fact that we see the acting president already requesting for another 500 million Eurobond. Do you see it as a fit for purpose?
Sorry, can you come again?
I was talking about our reserve having is on the increase lately. And of course, this is also as a result of the success of that. We see it in the oversubscribed 1 billion euro bond. The acting president is already requesting for a 5 billion euro bond, another one from the National Assembly. I'm saying, do you see it as fit for purpose?
I do think so, because for the 2017 budget, we have a deficit of about $3.5 billion to fund for the budget. And to do this, we would require borrowing both from the capital market via Eurobond issuance or via borrowing from the multilateral lending partners like the IMF and the World Bank. So for us, we think that going through the Eurobond market is quite important.
Because this fund
we wouldn't be required to either cut down on subsidy for energy or increase tax. So stock funding is very important, and what is happening in the foreign exchange markets right now is important for the success of the issuance, both in terms of the issuance rate as well as the subscription level for the issuance. So we think that the central bank will probably be much more encouraged right now to go for a much more flexible foreign exchange regime, because we have our external reserves up, we have oil prices up as well, and in order to secure very cheap borrowing, it's probably very hard to go into a much more flexible foreign exchange regime.
All right, Abimbola, let me ask you, Kayode here feels that the CBN shouldn't have gone back to reversing the policy, going back to the old policy. Do you feel the same?
Well,
I think what
now is a mix of different policies, right? That will ensure that we have a convergence between all the different mix we have in all these segments, right? And also ensure that we have stability in the foreign exchange market. So for us to achieve all this, we think one thing is very important. The central bank has to give up control of the foreign exchange market by totally abandoning its FX rate peg and moving to a much more, probably a managed float or a free float, if possible, right? Both will work very well for our economy, right? And after doing that, we also have require the CBN to reaccess the list of 41 items which they think they are ineligible for FX transactions, because what this does is that all these 41 items are going to the unofficial market, the parallel market, and pressuring rates at that segment. So for us to have a convergence, the CBN has to bring these 41 items back to the official market and probably use cheap tools like tax raise or import quota or something, but more of a trade policy, right? To stop the importation of these items. That would be have a managed or a free float, right? And remove those 41 items from the list of ineligible transactions in the interbank market.
Okay, I'm sure you share the same opinion, but what I meant was going back to what obtained.
Oh, yeah, reverting to the old
Exactly,
system.
to
Yes.
what obtained.
Yeah, very correct. I share his views, very, very correct as far as I'm concerned. Remove those items, strengthen your ability to use trade prohibitions to control their influx into the economy. That's very important. The CBN should also go a step further. Make sure as quickly as possible you can align the two markets, the rates. Let them trade almost at par, at best 5 to 10% from each other. That's important. Then CBN has also taken a good decision. Banks open outlets at the airports, major airports, where people can buy at ease without a long queue like we had some months back. They should also take it further by ensuring that people coming into the country too, there is a ease of changing whatever they are bringing in, they are taking them into the official system as quickly as possible. For instance, if somebody is coming in from Spain with 5,000 euro, the same process that will give a Nigerian euro to spend in Spain should be able to collect that 5,000 euro at the airport. Probably put it on an ATM card for him. If you do, it's safer, and government can take those money into the system and control their usage and for regulatory purpose.
All right, just before I let you both go, there is still the issue. Investigations have revealed that a chunk of the parallel market operators are still trying to slow down the fall of the dollar. That's to mitigate the heavy losses they are currently facing. I know some of them have bought at the rate of 500 and something. So how can the CBN actually mop up or actually control this by the parallel market? I'll start with you, Abimbola.
There is no way the CBN can control the parallel market, because it's a market they have no control over. The only way they can affect how trading sentiment is moving the parallel market is through indirect policies. Like I mentioned, by postponing their pace of intervention, both at the interbank market and for retail end users of FX, such as BCAs, PCAs, school fees, and medical tourism, if they can ensure that they are fulfilling every order that comes through from the commercial banks, they'll be taking up a huge chunk of the demand, that was going to the unofficial market before. So via this indirect means of increasing supply to the retail market and ensuring that they are clearing the backlogs of demand in the interbank market, they would have gone a long way in influencing how rate direction, moves in the unofficial market.
All right, then. So, in your own view, do you think there's any way there is a strategy they could use in managing this?
There is absolutely, like I said, really, there are very few options. When they try to use security operatives to compel them to do certain things, I mean, the black market operators, it backfired and the consequences quite heavy. The reality is policies will work more than controls and gunpoint approach to the economy. What the CBN must not do at this point is to stop the intervention. They must continue to intervene by providing liquidity. As many people as are willing to take dollars for legitimate and acceptable transactions, CBN must make sure that they are well taken care of. With that, over the time, one of the good things about this is people will not speculate so much on the Naira henceforth, as long as they know the CBN is there to intervene from time to time. So there is already a shock within the system, and nobody wants to get his hands pumped. So unlike in the past when we had a win-win situation, you buy at 400, you sell at 480, it was almost a sure commodity. It was almost a sure avenue to do round tripping. But going forward now, they would desist from doing that as much as possible.
Yes, a good step in the right direction by the CBN absorbing retail forex sales. But the bone of contention is the domestic production must work in Nigeria. I must thank you both for your time, Kayode Oyedeji and Omotola Abimbola. Many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me too.
All right, the risk of Nigeria devaluing Naira rising. A recent poll has shown that there is a risk. That's a Reuters poll, and it shows that Nigerian authorities may soon devalue the Naira to narrow the gap between the official and the black market rates to boost confidence in the economy. A shortage of the dollars in Naira has led the black market to charge higher premium in compensation for that scarcity in the official market. And that poll suggests there is a 45% chance that the central bank will devalue the Naira in coming weeks, amid speculation that the government is stepping closer to liberalizing it. Last week, the central bank effectively devalued the Naira for private individuals by offering them dollars at a rate of $1 for 366 Naira instead of the official 305 Naira rate. Nigeria's central bank auctioned $230 million in forward contracts on the official market last Thursday after selling $70 million earlier in the same week to boost dollar liquidity and help narrow the gap between the official and the black market rates. And devaluations, we know, are painful, mostly to the poor, as the cost of living increases. All right, that's Business Nigeria for today. Many thanks for watching. I am Yemisi Landredo.